Hi guys, welcome back to another vlog, and today it's about drowning, but it's not me for a change. So this one happened well, probably a year after the one that happened to me, actually, one of them. And I was at a different local beach to myself, where the beach is much smaller, and either side of the beach is like a stretch of rocks that goes out and around the corner. So it's a lot more dangerous. A really good beach to surf, but it's a bit more dangerous to surf it as well. It's okay if you know what you're doing, but there's a lot of rip currents and strong currents that go out and along the rocks. So if you're inexperienced, you tend to get taken out around the rocks. Anyway, so this situation, I was surfing out, and there wasn't an awful lot of people out, but where I was almost on my own. I was on the edge of the reef, basically, and catching the shoulder. And I noticed there was a guy, probably what looked in the perfect position then for the peak of this reef, out by the rocks. And I noticed he was, it's weird, you know, when certain things just stand out then. And I looked at him, and he just, something didn't look right, something looked a bit off about him. And I watched and I thought, I couldn't put my finger on what was wrong. And then a wave came, and I went to go for the wave, and I just totally screwed it up, and I fell off, and I was like, oh, a bit annoyed with myself, paddled back out, and I looked over, and he was kind of splashing, and like not splashing to catch a wave, just kind of splashing. And I thought, oh, sod it, I'll go see what's going on, and I'll paddle over. So I paddled over to see him, and when I got there, he was like massively out of breath. He was like, like, and I'm like, he's not doing anything, he's out of breath. I was like, you're right, mate, what's going on? And he couldn't talk. He was like so out of breath, he couldn't talk. And I thought to myself, right, obviously something's seriously wrong now. I said, well, what do I do? You know, what can I do to help this guy? We're out in the sea. And also the problem is where he is, and he's going, because he's stuck in this rip. Now, I thought he was there to catch the better waves, and actually he wasn't. He was getting taken out by the rocks, by the rip. I was like, oh, shit. So I realised, kind of, not as quickly as I should have, but that he was having an asthma attack, and he couldn't breathe properly. So I was like, right, well, so how do I deal with it? What do I do? I thought the only thing that makes sense is, unfortunately, ditch my board, take my board off, push it towards the rocks, and basically ride his board with him on it back in. So I kind of spun him round, I kind of laid on his back, and we caught a wave, but the only way we could go is towards the rocks. We can't go anywhere near the beach. The beach is not miles away, literally, but a long way away. So we couldn't cut across to the beach. So I cut across as much as I could, but we were so far into the rocks it was never going to happen. So when we got to the rocks, I then actually had to ditch his board because it's in our way as well. So I took his leash off and let his board go, and dragged him up onto the rocks. And in the end, the only way I could get him over the rocks is to do a fireman's carry. So I literally put him over my shoulder and started walking over these rocks. And it was, yeah, he's probably talking only 300 meters, but it's a long way when it's over rocks, because there's big gaps in between the rocks and there's waves coming in. So it was hard work, and I was knackered carrying, because he wasn't a small bloke. And about 2/3 of the way over the rocks, I heard a helicopter. Didn't really think anything of it, just heard a helicopter, which got louder and louder and louder. And when I'm about, I don't know, 50 meters from the sand, where the edge of the rocks finished and the sand began again, the helicopter come around a point, and it was the air sea rescue, and it come around, hovered above us for a bit while I was still carrying him, and then went to the center of the beach and landed. I thought, that's weird. And so anyway, I got onto the sand, and he actually pointed at a pile of clothes. So I took him over there, and it turned out to be his clothes, and it was an asthma attack. He had one of those inhaler things, whatever it was, and he was like chugging on that. So I just knelt by the side of him, held him up while he was taking this inhaler, and the pilot from this helicopter walked over, and asked us if everything was all right, what's going on. So obviously I said, oh, you know, I found him at the back. I've managed to surf him in, literally, and carry him here. And what had transpired is someone on the cliffs, there's a road that comes around the cliffs, had seen him struggling and then seen me go and get him and ride him onto the rocks and phoned the Coast Guard, and they sent out a helicopter. So he stayed with us for a bit, and he then actually said that if this wasn't genuine, there'd be huge fines, because obviously it costs a lot of money to get a helicopter off the ground and people in it and get them out. So, but obviously it wasn't, so it wasn't an issue like that. But yeah, that was quite a scary moment, and embarrassing as well, this bloody helicopter landing. And you know, I know that's all good, and they're doing their jobs, and they would have saved him if there was an issue. But yeah, it's a bit humiliating for me, because I've just done this for this guy, and now all of a sudden I'm being, not threatened, but you know, saying that there's fines involved or whatever else. And so then, even then, once he could breathe properly on his own and the pilot was stuck with him, I went back over the rocks to get our surfboards. So when I got both our boards, and luckily they weren't really damaged, there's a few marks, but it is what it is. Come back and said goodbye to the pilot, who shook my hand and said, got matey up onto his feet, and we went back to the car park, and that was it really. You know, I made sure he was all right before he drove home, and that was it for my surf. I'd had enough then, so I went home as well. But yeah, just a short, quick one. Just let me know what you think. Have you been in a situation like that, either side of it, being the person that's helped or being the person that's needed help, like I was on the last ones? So like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.